Hello, and welcome back to the Misty Morrison Podcast. I'm your host, the wonderful Misty Morrison, and this is another episode of What the Fluff. Let's get right on into the stories. Okay, our first story is coming to us from r/neighbors from hell. My neighbor spent the entire night harassing me, and I finally had enough. So I moved into a single-person apartment several months ago that quickly turned into a neighbor from hell situation. My neighbor, who is both severely mentally ill and racist, has made my life a living hell. She's constantly slamming doors, getting in fights with her ex-husband, screaming racial slurs, etc. I've tolerated the behavior as long as I can and should have, because I didn't want to go through the process of moving out and figured I'd bear it until my lease is up in June. However, it was bubbling under for a very long time. Maybe I should have just shut up and let it blow over like I usually do, but I was having a particularly bad day yesterday, and all I could hear was her screaming and throwing things for God knows what reason into the late hours of the night. I stomped once to signal her to quiet down, first time I've ever done that, and she proceeded to spend the entire night on a drug-riddled tirade of screaming at me, pounding at my door, threatening to call the police and tell them I was crazy and racist against white people, I'm a black woman, slamming the doors and hitting pots and pans to keep me up, etc. It got so bad that I had to leave my apartment entirely and spend the night at my brother's place because she kept coming upstairs to pound on my door and try to fight me. I should have called the police, I know, but I didn't. However, I did get everything on film and am planning on going to my landlord with it tomorrow. I'm unsure what my landlord is going to say, but either way, I will 100% be breaking my lease. There's no way she's going to let me get a moment's peace after this, and there's no way I can continue to feel safe after what happened last night. But that means after this happens, I have effectively zero place to stay and have to completely uproot my life during one of my busiest work periods to move out all of my stuff. I just feel so depressed. I want to be happy about this because the harassment has been an ongoing issue from the moment I moved in, but I'm just completely overwhelmed and saddened that it had to come to this. Edit. I filed a police report and contacted my landlord. Thanks you guys for your concern. Whoa, that is truly a neighbor from hell. Further proof of why neighbors are horrible, and it is lovely when you don't have any. Yeah, this is craziness. I am shocked that you put up with this kind of behavior and sleep deprivation for this long. I'm really glad you filed the police report, really glad you recorded everything. And hopefully, as a result, she's the one that has to leave and you don't have to break your lease and move and you can just continue living there in peace as you should be able to. Story number 2 is coming to us from r/cheer off my chest. Oh, this is a long one. Okay. My husband knocked someone out in front of me, and I'm terrified. Content warning for violence and death. Some context. I've been with him for 6 years, and he's barely raised his voice in that time. Very zen, but also usually pretty timid in public. He's a big guy, so people rarely mess with him. I didn't think he was even capable of fighting. However, a few days ago, we went to one of his friends' places for a chill gathering. One of the host's friends showed up drunk off his ass and was jovial but raising his voice and yelling and talking over everyone. He didn't seem angry or aggressive, but he was being jolly to a belligerent level. He was touching everyone, and my husband looked really uncomfortable as he is touch-averse, even with me. We can't cuddle for more than a few minutes without him getting prickly. He came over to my husband and offered to shake his hand, and my husband held up a hand and said, "I'm good, thanks." This seemed to only spur on the drunk guy, who went to reach out a hand to put on his shoulder. My husband took a step back and said, "I'm not messing around, don't touch me." And his face just looked dark like I've never seen it before. He was breathing hard and balling up his fists. The other guy wouldn't take the hint and went in for a hug. It was a complete blur. I was looking directly at him and I barely saw what happened. There was just a loud pop and a crack, and the drunk guy collapsed, totally unconscious. My husband stepped over him and walked outside, and everyone was trying to wake the guy up. He started shaking and groaning and ended up having to go to the hospital because he had a seizure. My husband was just sitting outside on a bench, staring off into space and smoking a cigarette. I'm not going to lie, I went off on him and was yelling and screaming, and he just didn't react at all. He just said, "I told him not to touch me." The next morning, when I cooled off, I asked him again, and he gave me the same answer. I asked him if he even felt bad, and he said, "No, why should I?" Like, I get not wanting to be touched, but the complete lack of remorse or even caring about the guy's health is terrifying to me. He got a call from the friend who hosted the gathering today, telling him the guy he punched was going to be okay. My husband just said, "Why are you telling me? It's kind of not my problem." Like, yes it is. Is he some sort of sociopath who just was really good at hiding it? Nobody does that. I'm actually scared of him now and have been sleeping on the couch the last 2 nights. I can't believe I never saw this before. How could I be so stupid? He was never shy or timid. He was just emotionless. Edit 2. The first one is in the comments. Okay, let me scroll to find the first one. Okay. I am having a very hard time finding it. The original update. So I will scroll back up and read the second update. Edit 2, first one's in the comments. I couldn't find it. To summarize, the police came and took a statement. I was shaken by what happened initially and reacted out of fear and anxiety and said some stupid, selfish things. The last few hours I spent cuddling his chest and just being there physically. He didn't freak out or get uncomfortable, and I asked him if it was okay quite a few times. I apologized that he had to go through that and told him I know he was upset and I freaked out, and it must have been really difficult for him to be in that situation, feeling so cornered and violated. I reassured him that everyone reacts differently. I told him what happened scared me, but he was within his rights to do it, and I just needed some time to work on my emotions regarding it. I made it clear that if someone were doing the same thing to me, I wouldn't be upset if he did that to them, and that I was being hypocritical when I got upset with him because of that. Turns out that the majority were right. It was a trauma response. His dad beat him until he was bigger and stronger than his dad, and then his dad turned on his younger brother. When he was 18, my husband nearly beat his father to death before taking his little brother, who was 12 years old, away from that terrible home. A couple people were wondering how big he is. He's 6'4" and 275 pounds. The drunk guy was nearly as tall as him, but not as bulky, but clearly could have been a threat. My husband's 30 now, and he said that's the last time he laid hands on anyone and would never do it unless he had good reason. Certainly never with me, and I believe him. He let down his shell and cried to me, and I told him I'd be there to support him if he just needed some time or if he wanted to pursue therapy. The comments saying he deserved better broke my heart. I want to be better. He got another call from the cops who said they're closing his case because there's nothing there. Friend would be guilty of simple battery, and my husband would be guilty of aggravated battery, but it's roughly equal since the other guy instigated and my husband was literally backed into a corner. Drunk felt really bad and didn't want to pursue anything, thank God. But yeah, my husband admitted he went too far without me needing to say anything. He said he wasn't proud of what he did, but he felt so embarrassed he played it off as indifference to save face in front of me. I told him he didn't need to, that I've seen him at his worst moments and never judged him before, and I'd do my best to change the situation for the better. I just kept apologizing, and once the tears started coming out, I held him and let him cry for a long time. We are going to be okay. Everything is going to be okay, and I'm going to be with him every step of the way. Edit 3. Comments were locked for no reason and with no explanation. Thanks for participating and leaving your feedback. Okay, that was a lot. So I'm very glad that we have those edits. But I'll comment first from her initial post. Her reaction, like berating him for what he did, have to go back and read the original portion. Okay. Berating him for what he did and basically accusing him of being a sociopath because he didn't care what happened to the guy. First off, you were naive for thinking he couldn't even fight. The vast majority of people, when put in that kind of situation, they can fight, or they'll at least try. His boundaries were broken. He very clearly said, "Don't touch me," and the guy pushed it further. The guy got what was coming to him. If I had to defend myself and ended up hurting someone and sending them to the hospital, I wouldn't care if they're okay. I'm a small person, and if I need to defend myself, I need to make sure that person's not getting back up again. I mean, if I got the phone call a couple days later, "Hey, they're going to be okay," I also wouldn't care. Like, they threatened me. I defended myself. I cared about the outcome for me and my safety, not what happened to them. And the fact that you just immediately turned on your husband for defending himself is really a red flag for you. I am really happy that in the comments, in the edit, things turned around. You found out like his whole story. You understand where that reaction came from, where that response came from. And I'm glad you found it in your heart to care about your husband, understand where he came from in that situation and everything that followed. I'm also really glad no legal action was taken against him because this truly sounds like self-defense. Yes, and I'm glad you are also planning to work on yourself to be a better partner. Okay. I'm watching my battery flash red, trying to die, and knowing I have 10 minutes more that I need to record. Story number 3 is coming to us from r/cheer off my chest. Ever since my brother became a lawyer, he treats every conversation like he's interrogating you in court, and I'm sick of it. My brother David, 30 male, graduated from law school in 2023. Ever since he became a lawyer, it is impossible to have a normal conversation with him. He treats anyone he talks to like someone he's questioning in court. Every conversation is like an interrogation, and I, 29 female, am sick of it. And so is everyone else. He was never like this before. I thought it was just because he was excited about finishing law school and that it would wear off. But in a few months, it will be 2 years since he graduated. I get being excited. I was excited when I finished pharmacy school, but I don't go around bothering people about their medication. David's fiancée left him over this. She tried talking to him and even suggested relationship counseling, but he doesn't listen. She said she was sick of being questioned and browbeat over every little thing. Both of them have busy jobs. She's an optometrist. She wanted them to have some balance at home where they could relax. But David acted like he's still in court all the time. He can't leave his lawyer persona at the courtroom door. He does have to go to court for many of his cases, but he can't turn it off. I honestly don't know how she put up with it for so long. We have another brother, Trevor, 28 male. He lives in a different province from us. At Christmas, Trevor visited, and he brought his girlfriend to introduce her to us. She works for the fire marshal, and she told us that talking with David reminded her of being questioned in court as part of her job when she has to give evidence. A couple of weeks ago, my parents went on vacation, and their flight was delayed on the way back because the plane had an engine issue. My parents and the other passengers had to wait until the next day when a different plane was brought in. David acted like my parents personally sabotaged the plane and questioned them like they were on the opposing side in one of his court cases. Even my parents are tired of him. David doesn't listen if someone tells him to stop. In fact, doing that just makes him worse. Trying to do it back to him just gets him riled up more. I just avoid him now, and if I have to be around him, I don't talk unless I have to, and I just give one-word answers. David doesn't see anything wrong with how he acts toward people now. He was never like this before he became a litigation lawyer, and I really wish he would stop because it is so exhausting. That's weird. Oh, edit. I am not American. It should have been clear if you read my post that I'm not American. Things like the Fifth Amendment of the American Constitution don't apply in countries outside of America. If I started saying things like the Fifth Amendment or banging gavels or other legal court things mentioned in the comments to my brother, it would just be nonsense and no one would know what I'm talking about. I had to look up what the Fifth Amendment, right to remain silent, Miranda rights, and other legal terms mentioned in the comments meant because I had never heard of them. American legal terms do not apply in other countries. Okay, so apparently there were a lot of comments assuming, as people often do, that the OP was American. That is not the case. I gathered that whenever he said that the other brother lives in a different province. But yeah, that's weird. Like, to change your entire persona and just start interrogating everyone in your life all the time because of what your job is. I feel like most people who have a stressful job like that will be so relieved for the day to be over, to be able to leave all that aside and just chill out and go back to normal life. And I know a lot of people are like really proud of their professions, especially like a lawyer. You worked really hard to get there. But still, to take it to this extent. This is a really weird one, and I don't really know how you fix it other than just ignoring him and saying like, whenever he starts acting that way and starts interrogating you, say, we're not in court. I do not have to tolerate your interrogation, and this conversation is done, and walk away. If everyone stops letting him do it, basically entertaining him by continuing a conversation with him despite his behavior, I feel like if you all stop that, he'll have to stop it because he won't be able to have conversations with you guys anymore. He'll be the one missing out. And if he doesn't stop, then you just limit your contact because he sounds incredibly hard-headed. And I'm sorry that he changed when he got his fancy job. Okay, story number 4 is coming to us from r/Tales from Security. Amazing entitlement. Sears, 1976. My first full-time security position. I was coming into the store to start my shift. There was a lot of snow on the ground, so it was really cold. What drew my attention was a teenager who came into the store just ahead of me. In spite of the cold, the girl was wearing only tight white shorts, flip-flops, and a tiny, tight tank top. I assumed she had to be freezing. A short time later, I'm on the camera watching the sale floor. We had a girl in loss prevention who was about 5'10" and was one of the sweetest people I've ever had the pleasure of working with. A few minutes later, we got a call for suspected shoplifter. I located the girl who came into the store just ahead of me and used the cameras to follow and record her. This girl was no more than 5'1" and at best 100 pounds. Every department she entered, she picked up more and more items. I had to laugh as I called the local state police barracks to request officers for the shoplifter. The thing that made me laugh was the girl in her tiny shorts and tank went into the juniors department and minutes later left wearing jeans and a long top sweater. Loss prevention started to move in and follow her. By the time her shopping spree was over and she headed towards the exit, loss prevention closed in. I was amazed when the girl identified loss prevention and surprised her with a surprise right that sent our loss prevention girl over a rack of clothing before she ran for the exits, only to run right into 2 state troopers. Later, in the loss prevention room, she was discovered to have managed to put on 4 pairs of jeans and pants over each other, 5 tops, and a coat as well as boots, a large shoulder bag with 3 other pairs of shoes inside the stolen bag. All told, she had collected between $500 and $600 worth of merchandise, along with assaulting a loss prevention officer. To me, the comedy was when the girl's parents arrived to collect their daughter and were presented with a pile of stolen merchandise as well as video of her assaulting a store employee. The reaction was amazing. The parents started yelling that their little girl didn't shoplift. We were picking on her. Even the troopers were surprised at their attitude. More so when they demanded their daughter be turned over to them at once. They were then a little surprised when the troopers told them that would not happen because of the assault charge. I was pleased to report that loss prevention girl only suffered a split lip and was fine otherwise. I moved on to a better job, and now I can't imagine working security with the people's attitude about other rights to do as they please. My respect goes out to any and all security professionals. This level of entitlement does not surprise me at all. Yeah, I mean, I can't make sense of it when someone's like, just watched a video of their child shoplifting. So, oh, my little girl doesn't shoplift. What did you just see on the camera? People are truly wild out there, and I can't make sense of it. It's just entitlement at its finest. All right, that is 4 stories for us today for What the Fluff. Thank you for tuning in. If you are listening on podcast, leave a 5-star review and share the episode if you liked it. If you are watching on YouTube, comment, like the video, subscribe for more. And I will see you next time for another episode of the Misty Morrison Podcast. Bye.